Welcome back to Vintage Super League. It's Chris McCullough. I'm here with Rich Shea.
Hello.
And we're going to watch, who are we watching? Luis Scott-Vargas and Randy Buehler. Those guys are, Hall of Famers. Magic Hall of Famers is what we call them.
Powerful wizards. We're going to see
powerful wizards.
Taking on Gush today.
It's also like
creature-based decks. And
welcome back to Vintage Super League. It's Chris McCullough. I'm here with Rich Shea.
Hello.
And who are we watching? Luis Scott-Vargas and Randy Buehler. Those guys are, Hall of Famers. Magic Hall of Famers.
Powerful wizards.
Yeah.
Powerful
wizards.
All right. There, how's that?
That's better.
All right.
Okay, so is this Mosdog trainee versus LSV? I'm actually not that familiar with LSV's deck. I basically know that he's like a combo young pyromancer deck.
Looks like he's on a Gush Pyromancer deck against a Merfolk-based deck.
Right. So Merfolk we just saw Randy's deck is similar to Williams and Fro. Has a couple extra one-up creatures. Otherwise, very similar. I think it's five cards off. Something like that. LSV's deck is very different than everyone else in the league. I don't think anyone else really combined the creature element and the combo element quite like this.
I like LSV's deck quite a bit. One of the things I've disliked about the rug-based Gush decks is that they don't have the ability to close off a game with a quick combo the way some of the more traditional Gush decks do. And LSV is clearly trying to solve that.
Yeah, it looks like the game had some sort of...
That was a very quick win.
Yeah, it looks like it had some sort of problem, so I'm not sure what happened there, but we'll be back up in a second, I'm sure. The fact that LSV can attack someone down to 8 or 10, then get off a quick storm.
It is. This should be an interesting match. It's worth noting that Gush can actually take away Island Walk if it actually comes to that.
But does LSV not actually have tendrils in his deck? I'm totally wrong with this. He's empty the not tendrils. So it does change a little. He needs an attack to win.
I'm going to pull up the deck lists here.
So yeah, LSV plays to win, Empire Manager, 2 Snapcasters, Empty the Warrens, 1 Dig the Mind Sculptor.
Empty the Warrens is different from what you usually see in these sorts of decks, though. It still lets you draw a bunch of cards and then eventually end in a combo kill, as opposed to the more traditional rug decks that actually have to either attack or play a Pyromancer before trying to go off. So even though it doesn't, whether or not it has tendrils, it has Vampiric Tutor, it has Empty the Warrens, it has Gifts Ungiven. It's much more situated like a traditional Gush Storm combo deck as opposed to the Rug Gush aggro decks.
Yeah, and it should be with Snapcasters. He could not, if he, but the Yawgmoth's well and Gushes, he can probably set up a lot of Time Walk Snapcaster returns anyway that play very similar to the Tendrils kill, where you don't really give your opponent another turn. So,
That's true, and the ability to use these cards. One of the things I've always liked about Gush Tendrils is that they can go from absolutely nothing to a win instantly. And this list has the ability to do that, unlike a lot of what we've been seeing on Magic Online. On Magic Online, we've been seeing a lot of what looked like legacy rug decks, except instead of the mana denial element, they have a Gush engine.
So here's an interesting play. This is LSV mana draining the master just for the mana, even though we can't counter it. So this is. So we saw the first uncounterable lord of the game, which is going to put Luis on a pretty fast clock. With 2 extra mana, there's a lot of stuff he can do in his deck. And Randy only has 3 cards, so.
All right, I actually just got into the game. I wasn't able to watch it until now.
Oh. Well, right now it's Curse Catcher and Master of the Pearl Trident against 2 extra colorless mana. And Luis is vampiric, so. So it looks like he's just gushing. Yeah. With 4 mana floating, has not played a land this turn.
No, and it's virtually 3 mana with a Curse Catcher on the board there. The bright side is that LSV is currently able to block the Curse Catcher, even though he has Island Walk. Doesn't have Island Walk anymore.
So Luis could have killed the Curse Catcher, which Randy then could have fizzled. So he would rather draw a random card from his deck.
The more time that goes by, the more that these merfolk are going to chip away at LSV's life total. And the reason that's relevant here is that LSV is really going to want to try to go off, but because of Fast Font taking life, the life loss actually restricts LSV's ability to go off, as does not having any islands in play. LSV, no permanents on the board, and that was a very good play by Randy. Keeping LSV off 2 lands stops a lot there.
And what do you think about repeal in decks like this?
You know, I tried a repeal a long time ago in Vintage, and I couldn't get it to work. The problem is that it's always tempo negative. You're paying 1 more than whatever your opponent cast. So it's not bad for a way to build up Storm without actually costing yourself a card. And of course, the ideal scenario is repealing your Mox Sapphire to build your own mono blue Manamorphose. But in practice, a lot of the time, you're either throwing it away to bounce a Mox, or you're paying more than your opponent did.
Right. I mean, in this game, it just seemed like it was doing basically nothing but cycling, but costing him a lot of mana to do it.
Exactly. It's very tempo negative.
So
it's always
a card that game
look better on paper than it actually is.
Yeah, it's played. It seemed like it got played a lot more in Europe than it got played in the American metagame. I don't know if there was a couple key players who were causing that to happen. I didn't follow the European tournaments that closely, but I know that for a long time it was kind of like if you had a bunch of repeals in your deck, people kind of accused you of having a European list. The thing is that game is that Luis fell behind on mana like 3 different ways. Like he had Curse Catcher on turn 1, and then he got Wastelanded. So it was like he was always, even with the mana drain was only used to pay for repeals, which, like you say, are like a mana behind. So basically everything he did that game, except the mana drain, was pretty inefficient. I mean, some of that was Randy's deck, obviously, but that's what the Merfolk deck does.
Exactly. It seemed like there was one turn where if LSV had been able to assemble his deck to go into combo mode, he would have been able to. I don't know if he just didn't have the cards or if the Curse Catcher was contributing to that. But he wasn't able to assemble the contraption, and that's...
I mean, so far, in all of these games, decks trying to do anything fancy have not looked very good when they face the decks. But when the
there are a lot of things in Vintage that are really efficient at stopping you from assembling your contraption.
right.
I mean, the Workshop deck has some lands and a bunch of cards that do that.
Right. So,
All right.
So here we go, Silvergill Adept after the strip mine of library. Sorry about that. So our first merfolk is on the board. LSV had mulligans anyway, so at least his library was very unlikely to get active without a gush. But of course, that's another thing that this gush deck does very well, much better than other vintage decks, is actually get back up to library range. So here's a Trigon. Now, do you think Trigon is not really a blocker in this matchup? So I guess he brought it in just for Null Rod?
Yeah, Null Rod's an important card to get rid of. I can't see any of the game here.
Oh, well, you probably have to close out and get back into the game to see it.
All right.
So it looks like Randy is considering countering this Trigon Predator or faking it. If he has a Lord in his hand, the Trigon Predator, if he has a Lord in his hand with no Null Rod, Trigon Predator doesn't really matter at all. If he doesn't have a Lord, yeah, so he is forcible the Trigon Predator. So this makes it very likely that his hand has Null Rods and not Lords. And now it's getting forcible back. Louise discarded a Snapcaster Mage. Randy discarded a second Force of Will. So that's a pretty big fight over a creature that, while it can block a Silvergill Adept right now, momentarily may not be able to block a Silvergill Adept. Randy's got 6 cards.
Restarting Moto to try to watch this.
All right, so Lord of Atlantis comes down. Now the Adept can attack unmolested, which makes you wonder about the Force of Will. I'm kind of surprised by it, but not knowing what it means. Of course, if Blue's willing to introduce one release the Force of Will, Randy Force of Will, then he decided he needed the Trigon.
All right, I successfully restarted Moto, and now I'm actually watching this game.
So it's not looking too good here for Luis. It's looking very good for Merfolk.
It is. All right. Trigon Predator can no longer block anything. It's fair to say that if Randy plays a Null Rod, that Null Rod will be in trouble.
Yeah, I'm really shocked that Luis protected his own Trigon. I wonder if he almost got baited into it. I don't know if it...
He might not have had anything.
Yeah, he just might have said, I have to hope my Trigon can block, but...
It's possible that he was hoping that Randy wouldn't have another Merfolk Lord?
I don't know. And that's it. Yeah, so... That's another case of the deck trying to do something fancy. Just basically like has one... I mean, at least the mulligan, and the mulligan in what looks like a land-heavy hand. You know, he has cards like Lightning Bolt in his deck. So like a Snapcaster Mage and a Lightning Bolt. Really good in this matchup. But the way things played out, he really just didn't do anything.
There's a reason Merfolk won Vintage Champs this year. It's an extremely good deck. I mean,
yeah.
It's like 2 Strip Mines and a Force of Will.
Yeah, I mean, the interesting thing about, I mean, you may not find the gameplay that interesting, and I can understand that. But Merfolk and the Workshop deck that I played, like, they just, in some ways, they don't care what your cards are. Like, they're you know, between the Null Rods and the Wastelands and the counter spells in the case of the Merfolk deck and the, you know, lock pieces in the shop deck, they just don't care. Like, what your strategy is so meaningless because the cards are just generically annoying.
I agree.
Merfolk deck, it's a shops deck, and your card choices actually matter a little.
Workshop takes it to another level. At least Merfolk lets you put your cards on the stack and then it counters them. Workshop, you can't even put them on the stack in the first place.
Yeah. I guess we're going to a commercial.
All right.
And Randy is going to be back to talk about his victory. You know, I don't know if he had anything to say, but we'll find out.